Well, hello everybody, and welcome to another how-to video. Today we're going to talk a little bit about something called a T FlipFlop. Recently I did a video where I built a door and I ended up using a T FlipFlop in that circuit, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about what it's good for and how to make one. So this is the T FlipFlop that I used in the circuit that I built, and this is the one I usually use. There are many ways to build a T FlipFlop. Basically what happens here is you push this button, and you can see we get a signal out of it, and that signal stays on. And then if I push the button again, the signal turns off and it stays off. So what we have going on here is we have a dropper that is facing upwards, and then we have another dropper that is facing into this hopper. This hopper drains down into this dropper, and this dropper is facing back into this one. So it makes kind of like a little loop. And you can see in here, I just have a single item. And so when I shoot that item up, it goes into the hopper, and then the hopper drains it down here. And then when I push the button again, it ends up getting scooted over. So basically, when the item lands in here, we get an output. And when it gets scooted off, we don't. Now this is another T FlipFlop. This is the very first one that I ever learned to build. And it's real simple. It's just, again, a dropper facing upwards, a dropper facing over, and a hopper that drains down into this. This time the input is up here, and when I push this button, the item gets dropped down into here, goes in here, and we get an output. And then when I push the button again, it's going to push it up into this dropper, and we don't get an output. So real simple. The only thing here is if you're standing too close, you might pick up the item as it scoots through here. This one is a little more solid where you don't have to worry about that. So what you may have kind of figured out is basically what we're doing is we're turning a button into a lever. We're taking a button which usually sends out a pulse, and we're turning it into a solid, constant signal. So you may wonder, why not just use a lever? So here I have a T FlipFlop, and we have a button that is running into the input, and then the output goes into an iron door. So when I push this button, we get a signal which opens the door, and if I push the button, we close the door. So that works just like you would think a lever would work. But the thing is, usually you walk through a door. So if I push this button and it opens, and then I walk through, with a lever, I would have to go back out there to turn it off. But here I have another button running into that same input. And so from this side, I can close the door. I can also open it again. So it's really versatile where you can open and close a door from either side. Now, somebody left a comment on one of these videos that said, that's all good and fine, but how do you know when to use these circuits? My answer to that is really, you just have to kind of practice and try a lot of stuff. The video that I recently did where I used a T FlipFlop, I showed off that I did a lot of trial and error to figure out eventually how I wanted the door to work. So each of these circuits is kind of like a word that you add to your vocabulary, and when you want to say something, you put those words together. A couple weeks ago, I showed you guys how to make something called an RS Nor Latch, and this is it right here. Now, if we hook that up to the same door, if I push this button, the door opens, and it stays open. If I push this button again, nothing happens. What an RS Nor Latch does is it takes the signal and it latches it, kind of hangs onto it. I have to go to the other button in order to turn it off. But this button, again, it's latched into that kind of position. So you can only open the door from one side and only close it from the other side. And again, with the T FlipFlop, we can open it and close it from either side. So in the case of a door, the T FlipFlop makes a lot of sense. But I built some carnival rides where I wanted a door that was one way. I wanted people to get on the ride, but not be able to get back out. And so I used an RS Nor Latch for those doors. Similarly, there might be an application where, let's say people are running a race and you want to capture the start and end. An RS Nor Latch is really good for triggering and then untriggering at 2 different points. And as I mentioned, a T FlipFlop is real good for turning a button into a switchable source. And that's all I've got for you guys this week. I hope you found that interesting and useful. Next week, we're going to talk a little bit about the skulk blocks and how that interacts with redstone. But until then, thank you guys for watching. I hope you had fun. Please like and subscribe if you want to follow along on the adventure. And I hope to see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.